Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at the final group of these Toymonster International Captivz Jurassic World figures. So far, we have reviewed quite a few, and now this is the last little group that we have not taken a look at quite yet as far as a closer look and a thorough review goes. So in this round, the final round, we have the Pteranodon, the Baryonyx, the Mosasaurus, both the rare version and regular version of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the Indominus Rex. So a little more than we usually do, as we previously have been kind of trying to stick it to like 5 figures per review, but that wouldn't make sense as then we'd have one random straggler, so we might as well get the final here 6 reviewed right now. And as I've stated in pretty much every one of these reviews so far, these figures, in my opinion, are the best minifigures ever produced as far as the Jurassic Park or Jurassic World line goes. They're honestly unbelievable. The detail that they managed to cram into these, it's just jaw-dropping, as well as the absolutely beautiful looking paintwork on these figures is significantly more than you most often find on minifigures. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at each of these right now. So the very first one we're going to look at here is the Pteranodon, and you can see that as far as the Pteranodon goes, it has a pretty nice looking sculpt, pretty decent looking as far as giving off that Jurassic World style look. The only thing maybe would be that the crest is a little too short in comparison to the Pteranodon that we see in the film, but that doesn't really take away from the figure too much if you ask me. You can see some beautiful detailing up here on the head. The eyes are painted with a yellow. There is no pupil, and that's kind of a reoccurring trend with these figures. They all just seem to kind of have like that one coloration as far as the eyes go. Maybe pupils in the future will be something that they could potentially include on a future wave of these figures if they create more. I would definitely like to see pupils implemented into the figures at some point, but you can see the inside of the mouth is also painted with a pinkish coloration, nice realistic looking coloration. And if my camera would focus on it a little better, you could probably get a good idea there of what the detailing aspect looks like on the head sculpt of the Pteranodon. You can also see a little hint of like this pinkish coloration up here. Primarily the face is all blue. You can also see a little bit of that pink there on the cheek area. And then once you come back into the body, you can see that overall the body does include a really nice textured appearance to it, especially when you move out into the wings. You can see lots of really nice detail included and quite a few variations of color, as we seem to have like pinks and yellows and stuff dry brushed over top of the blue to make all that detail pop quite nicely. And again, a little bit of pink right there up here in the areas like those little skin flaps right there of the wing. And again, I was just saying before how it's incredible how much color variation they include on minis like this, because most often when you get minifigures, they don't usually include so much paint application. Here on the underside, you can as well see a similar look to the texturing and then also that paintwork and then how they've applied it. It looks really cool, not exactly accurate to the way it looks in the films, but still quite cool regardless. And then moving down here into the legs, you can see the feet are sculpted out quite nicely. Very nice textured appearance to the legs as well. You can kind of see like some creases and stuff as you move up and down the shin area of our pterosaur, and then you can see the underside of the feet and everything up here. Again, I think it's really nicely sculpted, decent paint application. Definitely not my favorite as far as the paint application goes for these figures, but still quite cool. And you can also see that the pterosaur is just kind of flying as the wings are kind of bent in an upward position, and it still allows it to kind of balance out once you lay it down, because of the way that the wings are positioned. So it still looks pretty decent when it's actually just regular down on the ground and displayed, but looks really cool in a soaring position as well. But definitely a nice looking Pteranodon as far as a Jurassic World style Pteranodon goes. And then the next one is definitely one of my favorites of the entire line. This is the Baryonyx. This one is beautiful if you ask me. As far as sporting that Jurassic World style Baryonyx look goes, this is picture perfect. It is so beautifully done. I feel like they captured the head sculpt in a really, really faithful way to what we saw in Jurassic World. The paint scheme, of course, isn't accurate to the film. They've taken some liberties with it, giving it a black and gray coloration, which I actually quite like. But again, the sculpt itself looks really good. You can see some beautiful texturing to the face here within the figure, and a nice dark wash that seems to have been applied to make all that detail pop really beautifully on the face. And often washes aren't something that you would find on minifigures. You can see the eye is painted again with just the yellow, no pupils, so once again I would love to see pupils implemented in the future. You can see the teeth down here, and shockingly the teeth are painted on minifigures. That is very, very impressive, something that you most often do not find at all as far as teeth painted on a minifigure. And not only are they painted, but they're painted really quite nicely. Like you could see, for the most part, it seems like the teeth are sculpted out individually and really, really well done as far as the paint application. No sloppy paint or anything that I can see. And you can also see the skin flaps there on the side of the mouth are painted as well. So really cool as far as that goes. And the tongue is even included within the mouth, and that is also painted. So lots of really nice paint application, again, going above and beyond what you expect for a minifigure. Then up here on the top, you can see some nice black coloration that runs down the course of the body. Moving down into the body, you can see almost like an armored-like appearance to the back of the Baryonyx. Beautiful detailing here to the side as far as like the skin. Once you get past that black and the cool white stripe that kind of borders around that black, and you can actually see the skin a little bit better as far as that grayish coloration goes. You can see how nicely textured the skin is, but also pick up on the really cool wash that they've included. Again, I love the fact that they've included a nice wash on the figure. You can also see the hands there sculpted out quite nicely. Unfortunately, you don't see any nail paint on the hands, but you do see nail paint there on the feet, which is, again, crazy. Even to the point where they've actually included paint on the dew claw. That is something that even the more mainstream dinosaur figure companies sometimes miss. So that is really impressive that they've even included paint there on the dew claws, and you can see a very nice musculature displayed within the legs. It's in kind of a crouching position, so it looks really cool, like it's roaring in defense or something along those lines. And then you come out the length of the tail. Again, really nice textured appearance as far as the skin goes. Really beautifully done. And it's all brought out perfectly with that dark wash. I love the way that they've applied that dark wash. And you can again see how cool it looks from this side with the very nice crouched position. Definitely a really nice pose for the Baryonyx overall, and an absolutely beautiful Baryonyx figure. And then we have the Mosasaurus, and this one as well looks incredibly cool, although one thing you can see is that the eye paint has actually missed the mark there on this side of the face. So that is a little bit of a downside as far as this figure goes, but I don't think it's like a huge deal or anything like that. We'll take a look at the opposing side, see if that side looks a little better. So definitely better, but also not perfectly placed, which is quite shocking because for the most part, none of these figures have had really any type of sloppy paint to them at all. So I'm kind of surprised to see that here on the Mosasaurus, but you can see that the mouth is open in a very aggressive-like position. You can see the teeth are painted yet again, and they have included the teeth there, those extra teeth on the upper side of the mouth, on the inside of the mouth. So that is a really nice touch that sometimes people tend to forget as far as Mosasaurus goes, and they do have that here on the Captivz version. And you can also see some really nice paint application to the figure out here. Lots of really beautiful paint variation with variations of like this darker blue and then this lighter blue, and there's even like, it seems like a darker blue wash that's been included, so it makes all the detail pop and just generally makes the figure look a bit more lifelike, a bit more realistic. You can see that the detailing aspect is gorgeously done, and you can really take note to that due to that dark wash. Lots of cracks and crevices to the skin here of the Mosasaurus. You can see some beautiful scale detail out here on the flippers of the Mosasaurus as well. And then we lead back here into the tail. You have a nice curve to the tail, and then you can see those very cool ridges that run up along the back of the tail, and then also the kind of armored look to the back of the Mosasaurus right there. I feel like as far as capturing the overall appearance to the Mosasaurus in the film, they nailed this one for sure. This is perfectly sculpted as far as the Jurassic World style Mosasaurus goes. Got to push that head on there a little bit better, but the paint application again seems to have been created a little bit by Toymonster International, because it's not perfectly what we see on the Jurassic World version, but I think it actually looks really cool, especially on this figure. I think it overall is a beautiful choice of coloration, and they've applied the paint in a very nice, very realistic fashion. Of course, on a figure like this, on an animal like this, you're not going to see much difference on this side in comparison to what we had seen on the previous side as far as like the positioning of the body goes, but the figure overall is just, again, absolutely beautiful. You even have some incredibly nice detailing here on the underside. Just an unbelievably beautiful Mosasaurus that I am so unbelievably psyched to add to my collection, because it is without question the best minifigure Mosasaurus that I've ever seen. And then we have a favorite of many, and that would be Rexy. We have the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex included in the line as well, and she looks beautiful. They've done a great job on the sculpt, kind of giving off that almost iconic pose where the Rex is kind of stepping on the Carnotaurus in Fallen Kingdom. That's sort of what I feel like was the inspiration for this positioning of the body in this pose, because it's not often that you see the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park almost in a tripod position with the tail on the ground. So again, definitely feel like they got the inspiration from that moment in Fallen Kingdom where the Rex was again stepping on the Carnotaurus and letting out a roar. Very, very reminiscent of that, but you can see that the actual detailing aspect of the Rex is beautifully done, and they've really captured the overall appearance to the Jurassic Park style Tyrannosaurus Rex. Shockingly, it looks as though the eye paint on this side here is a little sloppy as well. I really haven't run into any issues as far as sloppiness with the paint on these figures, even though being so small, it would not be surprising that they would have some sloppy paint to them because there's a lot of room for error on figures this small, but they've been really well done. Until these last two figures, I have a little bit of sloppiness to them, but regardless, again, I don't think it takes away from the figure too much, and the eye paint isn't too far off. It actually still looks quite nice, and you can see the teeth are painted inside the mouth, as per usual, as is the inside of the mouth, with a very nice realistic coloration of purple. So again, paint on the teeth of a minifigure is impressive beyond belief to me, and look at the detailing as you move down the neck of the Tyrannosaurus. Like, that is incredibly well done detailing, like a lot, as far as like creasing and just generally showing off movement in the skin and everything. And as you move down further into the body, you can pick up on the rib cage as well. You have this beautiful brown coloration that is quite reminiscent of the Tyrannosaurus Rex from Jurassic Park, but you also have kind of like a yellowish dry brushing in certain areas, which is very different, very interesting to see. We do actually have fingernail paint on this one. Being a Tyrannosaurus Rex, you would love to see those iconic two fingers there receive the fingernail treatment as far as the paint goes, and they have done that. Continuing along the body, you can see some beautiful muscle tone there in the thigh and calf region, and then moving down into the foot looks really cool. You do have toenail paint down here as well, very nicely applied, and they even seem to have a gloss coat to them, which is quite cool. And then you have a really nice curve to the tail down here, again reminiscent to that scene in Fallen Kingdom. And then looking at the opposing side again, you can really see how nicely done they've captured the Jurassic Park style head sculpt to the Rex. And then you're moving down into the body again, incredible detailing there in the neck region. You do see the rib cage yet again. The arms look very nice, very muscular, yet small like they should be. Again, the fingernail paint right there. You do have that Jurassic World logo right there. If it would focus on it, my camera is refusing to focus. Right there, nice silver logo in the chest region of the Rex. Unfortunately, they don't have that kind of trademark style to that kind of large scaling to the underside of the Tyrannosaurus here, but they also have the words and stuff over it, so maybe that's why they didn't include that. But again, you can see beautiful muscle tone here on this rear leg. Very nice, very strong looking animal. Again, the foot sculpt looks great. Nicely painted nails, and then we come out to that curve in the tail, which also looks really, really beautifully done. Again, the detailing aspect of these figures is insanely impressive for their size. And then there is also the super rare version, which is the silver Tyrannosaurus, which looks unreasonably awesome in silver colors. I wouldn't normally like something like this, kind of like metallic or golden type colors, but these Captivz figures have this silver Rex, I believe a bronze Indoraptor, and a gold Velociraptor blue, and every single one of them are incredible. I absolutely love them, and this is another one where it's just so much more impressive to look at in person than you expect it to be, and I actually really, really like the figure in this silver coloration. It overall just looks like an unbelievably awesome, kind of a Rexy statue, something that maybe you would see throughout the park in Jurassic Park or Jurassic World or something, just kind of paying tribute to the OG, I guess you could say, as far as the Tyrannosaurus for Jurassic Park goes. And I love the way it looks with this really nice silver coloration, very glossy silver coloration. It just, in general, is an incredibly awesome addition to the Captivz line. So if you can manage to score this guy, definitely a great figure. And the final one would be the Indominus. So many people's favorite as far as the Jurassic World series goes. You can see the eyes painted with an orange and actually does include a black pupil, so that's really shocking to me. I didn't realize, did the Rex actually have a black pupil? Yes, it did. Look at that. Somehow I totally missed that aspect. So some of the figures do seem to actually have a pupil and others don't. I don't know why that is, but I actually think they look great with the pupil. You can see how much better it looks as far as having a pupil here on the Indominus. That looks so beautiful. Again, a really nice head sculpt on the Indominus. You can see some of the quills sticking off of the back of the neck here, as well as some nice osteoderms throughout the figure. The teeth are yet again painted on this figure, just like all of the theropods that have their mouths open, and they look really nice. There's no real sloppiness or anything to the teeth as far as the paint goes, and you have a really nice realistic coloration for the inside of the mouth with like a pinkish coloration, which I feel like is very reminiscent to the Indominus in the films. The eye placement looks really good as well. You can see the nostrils are also elaborated with a darker coloration, so that looks great. You could also have some pretty nice texturing to the skin if my camera would focus quite nicely on it. It does look really quite nice, and you can also pick up on kind of a dry brushing that starts to appear with like a white throughout the figure to make the detail pop quite nicely. Coming down into the arms, again, the arm looks nice and muscular like you would expect it to. You can see that kind of dry brushing down here as well, and you can see some more quills sticking off of the back of the arm. The hands are beautifully sculpted. The nails are really nicely painted on the Indominus, and I feel like the hands of the Indominus are definitely one area that you want to make sure that the nails are painted on, because it just looks so much better with nail paint on the hands. Moving back here into the body a little bit, you can kind of see the skin stretching off of the body with this arm pulling forward, and also make out the skin kind of bunching up just slightly there as that leg kind of pushes into the stomach. You can see some more really nice muscle tone here on the leg of the Indominus Rex. Some nice dry brushing again, bringing that detail out quite beautifully, as well as the really nice foot sculpt with the nicely painted nails on the feet. Again, nail paint like this on minifigures is something that to me is just so crazy because you don't really see it very often. So these Captivz figures, including it so nicely, really blows me away. And then you come out to the tail, you can see it's got a really strong curve to it. Definitely a very strong curve. You can see more of those kind of ridges that run along the back of the Indominus right there. You can also see that the tail is a little bit crooked probably. There we go. That's probably more of the position that it should be in. And then over here, again, the head sculpt looks really nice if my camera would focus on it, because it likes to betray me, and you can see it now. You can see the really nicely painted eye, perfectly placed, beautifully painted teeth, really nice coloration there for the inside of the mouth. Again, you can take note to kind of some of those ridges, those osteoderms that run down the neck. Lots of really nice creasing going on here on this side on the neck, and again some more nice detailing here in the stomach region, as you can see some creasing in the skin in certain spots, again kind of showing off some movement, the skin stretching off of the body as that leg pulls back really far. You can see that leg's really stretched, and some more of those quills on the arm right there. Beautifully painted nails on the hand, and then we move back here again. The foot sculpt looks really good. You can really see the musculature displayed, and just kind of like almost like the muscles stretching as that leg pulls back so far. Like you could see a lot of really nice detailing right there in the leg and the way it's kind of reacting to the movement currently occurring in that leg. That's beautiful sculpt and detail. And then we move back out into the tail again with a really nice curve. A beautiful Indominus figure. The fact that Indominus has received so much love over the past like 2 years is really amazing to me, and I'm so happy to continue to get really beautiful figures of the Indominus Rex, as previously we only had the Hasbro offering, which was not very good. So it's nice to have some of these gorgeous new figures, and this Captivz Jurassic World figure from the Toymonster International Captivz line is definitely a great rendition of the Indominus. As far as things like articulation goes on the figure, well, on all of the figures, I should say, but we have articulation in the neck region of the Pteranodon. It's just barely turning, but that's about it as far as the Pteranodon goes. For the Mosasaurus, you do have articulation there in the neck, and then articulation back here in the tail. So you have two areas on the Mosasaurus, and then for the theropods, same deal, articulation in the neck, articulation in the tail, and that's the same for all of the theropods, which I just knocked everybody over right now. So as far as a size goes, I'm not going to measure each and every one because we just have so many. I'm going to just kind of hold the tape measure over top of them. You can see the Baryonyx is roughly in the 3-inch range, somewhere in that vicinity, about the 7.5 centimeter range, so you can definitely see that they are still quite small. And for a size comparison to show you that, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, Robert Muldoon, and the Attack Pack Colovosaurus from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Captivz minifigures here, the Jurassic World Captivz minifigures. And once you actually kind of get down low here, now you can really see how small those figures are, especially in comparison to figures like the Attack Pack Colovisaurus and Robert Muldoon over here, as those figures themselves aren't all that large, so you can really see again the smaller size on these minis, and I think further proving how incredible these figures are when they include such highly detailed sculpts and very nice paint application for the smaller size. I really think that seeing them next to these other figures just kind of shows you how impressive they truly are. So these Captivz Jurassic World minifigures are fantastic, each and every one of them, and I am very sad that I am now at the end of these figures as far as the reviews go, because they are absolutely incredible in every way, and I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that Toymonster International creates another wave of these, because I would love to get a hold of more of these figures and include species maybe like the Allosaurus and the Carnotaurus and the Ankylosaurus and things like that. There's quite a few species that were not included in this line, this wave of Captivz figures that I would love to see get included in a future wave. No word yet on if that will happen, but fingers crossed that it does. Again, the figures that we have here are incredible. The Tyrannosaurus really genuinely looks like Rexy from Jurassic World. They nailed the sculpt on that figure, and the paint job as well is quite nicely done for what you would expect on a minifigure. It exceeds my expectations for sure. And then you have that really cool metallic silver version as well, which I think may even be potentially more appealing than the regular version. It's just so cool the way that that is painted with that very cool silver coloration. Absolutely in love with that. And again, very, very highly detailed sculpts on both of those figures. And then you have the Pterosaur, who, as far as this line, this wave right here of these 6 figures that we're looking at goes, this group, I should say, it's probably the weakest out of all of them, but that by no means means that it's a bad figure, because it's still a really nice, very highly detailed version of a Jurassic World Pteranodon. Definitely a very nicely done figure, even if it's not exactly accurate to what we see in the films as far as like the length of the crest on the head or even the paint application. I still think it's a very appealing and quite nicely done Pteranodon overall. And then you have the Mosasaurus, who might be one of the most appealing figures out of the entire line, I would say. On sculpt-wise, it's incredibly nice, very faithful to the Mosasaurus from the film, but also the paint application is really nicely done. Not faithful to the version we see in the film, but really beautifully done as well, and I love the super nice looking tones of color that they've chosen for the Mosasaurus, and also the really nice wash that they've kind of brought all the detail out with, really making all that detail pop. And then you have the Baryonyx, who again is a strong contender for my favorite out of all of the figures in the Captivz line. It's just so beautifully done, and for some reason the lack of pupils on that figure just makes it look so evil, really giving off a very vicious appearance, I would say, to the Baryonyx, but the sculpt is really nicely done, and even though the paint application on this one as well doesn't really match what we see on the Baryonyx in Jurassic World, I still think it looks really quite nice, and was a very cool color scheme that they've chosen for the figure, and also including that nice dark wash, making the detail pop similarly to the Mosasaurus. And then the final figure of the bunch would be the Indominus Rex, and that as well is a really beautifully done figure. They nailed the paint application as far as really quite nicely portraying the color scheme from the film, and that is definitely a nice aspect of the figure, but they've done a great job in other areas, like including the quills and stuff that you see on the Indominus in the film. And the very nicely colored eyes with that orangish coloration, also very similar to the way the Indominus appears in the film. And they've done a great job in small areas on all of these figures, like including paint on the toenails and even on the fingernails on figures like the Rex and the Indominus. Just overall, a lot of work has gone into these figures, and you can really see it pays off beautifully on the final product of each and every one of these. So if these are figures that you are interested in picking up, unfortunately they are not currently available still in the United States. However, after I spoke to Toymonster International last year, they were stating that they were hoping to potentially increase their range of release in the 2021 year potentially to the United States, so I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that these actually do start to show up here at some point this year, if not at least some point in the near future potentially. Again, they are currently for sale in Australia though, so if you are from Australia, you should have no problem hopefully finding the figures, but again, if you're from elsewhere and are hoping to get a hold of these, again, they do have intentions on releasing the figures in other countries as well, so we just kind of have to wait it out. Otherwise, again, make sure if you do get a chance to pick these up, you do in fact do that because they are beautiful, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.